the Pickens County Council work session of Monday, August 18th, 2025. First item up tonight is going to be the invocation. And Councilor Chris Laws, okay, as well as the pledge.
Yep. Dear Lord, thank you for all the blessings you've given us. Thank you for bringing us here tonight safely. Please be here with us tonight as we do the business of the county. Please move upon us and help us to make decisions that please you. Thank you for keeping your hand of protection on all of us. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next item up tonight is going to be a staff presentation on abandoned vehicles, pools, overgrown vegetation, trash, and junk from yards. You want to give us a presentation, or you want to go one item at a time?
I think we'll, this file will step up. I think she may want to give you a brief overview and see what you all want to do.
Okay.
We don't have a formal presentation prepared, so just the document that's in your packet.
So basically, what I'd like to do, this is the goal that I mentioned in the goal section. So what we'll do is we'll go one item at a time. You tell us the current ordinances and what your recommendation is, what you want to say. Then we'll discuss it. We'll try to nail it down at some point, have a vote. You can create a draft of language for the next meeting. So let's start with, I'm not going to go in order. We're going to start with trash and yards, because that's probably the easiest. So what is the current ordinance and what do you recommend?
Right, so we have our current ordinance outlined. It's in a couple different sections or line items within Section 8 of the Pickens County Code. So it kind of outlines what a landlord, the owner of the land can have, and then what we consider a violation. So you can see those listed there.
That's 8-44.
8-44 and 8-73. Other counties are pretty close to ours. Anderson is probably the closest to ours, except they have a time limit on how long that trash can sit. So it's going to be in receptacles. They do it for 15 days. But then Spartanburg and Greenville County both have adopted the International Property.
What do you recommend?
So we recommend following Anderson County's ordinance and putting a time limit on that. But we'd also want to do the agricultural exemption for that one. So we would look at parcels deemed agricultural by the assessor's office to make that.
So that's Anderson chapter 20, section 28. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, so I'll read it. No person shall permit trash, garbage, litter, or solid waste which is not in a litter receptacle or is left exposed to elements invisible from any public road or adjoining private property to remain on the property for more or a period in excess of 15 days.
It just makes it a little bit more specific and puts that time.
Okay, so my question for you, I'll start with a question. 844 just talks about tenant trash only. So this is actually going to be private property with trash in yards as well, right?
Yes, and Austin can probably elaborate if there's additional codes they write on.
Yeah, the main one that it kind of all falls under, the main thing we write is 10-76, junk. That's what we base most of our stuff around.
So this gives you more of household trash.
It's just a little more specifics on what we write for, different verbiage. Especially, I think the time limit on the 15 days is the biggest thing. Go up and see exactly how much time. We can change our some of our documents, like the notice violations that we leave on people's doors and we send in the mail. We can change some of our documentation to match that.
Okay, what's the council's thoughts and what are you thinking?
I just, Mr. Chairman, if I may, under 1076, which is what you currently write under, right?
It's on the front.
When I read the definition, junk shall mean old or scrap copper, brass, rope, racks, batteries, paper, trash, rubber debris, tire waste, junk. dismantled or wrecked motor vehicles. It is a pretty all-inclusive, definition. So I don't understand, why don't we just take 1076 and give them 15 days to clean it up? What's the difference between doing that and what Anderson County has?
Let me try to answer that. Trash is redundant in that junk. In my opinion, shouldn't be there, but it's trash, household garbage. That's a little bit different. And this is more like things that you had a purpose at one time but no longer do. Household trash is different. Definitely, you have household trash, junk, and construction debris. I think there's three different things. Now, junk to me doesn't encompass. It's junk to me is something like that had a purpose, being used, and all of a sudden it's no longer got a purpose. It's just crap. Does that make sense?
I understand that's your definition, but trash is trash to me.
But what I would do is take it out of junk. I would just scratch trash there. The rest of it would just be my definition.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for sake of argument, rather than creating another ordinance, I would, another word, 1076, and say household trash or household garbage, rather than create a whole new section.
But when you think of a junkyard, do you think of trash? Most people think of junk as.
Well, 1076, Mr. Chairman, I realize I interrupted you.
That's fine, no problem.
Standards for residential uses and commercial businesses which do not meet the definition of a junkyard. That is 1076. So junkyards have nothing to do with this.
I know, but the word junk puts in people's mind. I honestly think 1076 needs to be rewritten. 1076 needs to be clearly two things: in vehicles and junk. Point A, point B. That's what I think. And when we get there, that's what I'm going to be arguing. But I would argue that household trash and litter, household garbage is not junk. Most people. And actually, I think you probably can pull those definitions up in other people's codes and probably do it. That's why I'm coming back to this, because some of the definitions are so poor. What I would do is anything that looks like household trash and junk, I would strip out, which is the word trash. Right? That's my argument here. Like all these other things here, they all had a use: scrap, copper, brass, rope, and in its day, they had value. Batteries, rubber debris, tires, dismantled, wrecked vehicles. Like you can have a vehicle that.
Chairman said that this water bottle has a purpose. And when I drink the water, it used to be recyclable and you could make money off of it.
That's true. That's right. I disagree with you. I think there's junk, there's household waste, and there's construction debris. I think we need to separate. At least I would separate all three out. Surely household waste and junk, I would surely not put in one definition. Is there any other thoughts on that?
Just one point of clarity, 1076 is in the junkyard ordinance. That is part of.
Y'all think it should stay there?
I think it does have a purpose in the junkyard ordinance. But we looked at pulling all of these out and putting them in one location together, or updating them where they are, just adding, and we are indifferent. That they can write on the code wherever.
Yeah.
I have a question. We discussed several meetings back. And I'm just asking a question here. You've got 15 days. I remember us talking about something that I never saw again. This is what we're talking about now.
What happened was we had the litter ordinance. The litter ordinance exempted owners. So you couldn't litter on your own property. 3 days follow make a motion. So what I would do is change it 15 days to 30 days. Make it universal. But
So there's two sets of rules, one for a property owner and one for a tenant. Is that what this? The 844 is focused toward renters.
Yes.
What you could do is just scrap it in 44 and just have this include everybody. What do you recommend on that? Did you see that as redundant? 844 and this new one you're proposing?
So whether you're the tenant or the owner, I mean, that property is occupied, you're responsible.
I think we need to be very careful. We can cross into property very quick. The people up on their own property. Including John.
What people define as junk.
Relative. I have things in my yard that some other people would think is junk. And I don't.
If it comes to stuff, it is trash, isn't it? It's trash.
So his point was a good one. Do you recommend adding this in addition to the one we have for tenants? Or does it not matter?
I would say, yeah, just to be on specifics on.
Usually with property codes or within a city is the owner's responsible for everything. Tenant is not following the rules, then it's the owner's responsibility to make the tenant follow the rules. We don't, I'm very surprised that this entire ordinance that seems an overextension of what our guys should be following up on. To me, that's what the owner of the property.
I think the reason for that is because if an owner goes through that process, it's a very long drawn out to get somebody evicted. You give them a warning. I think it was to cut down on the timeline. But if you can get those extensions, and they people could be there for 60 days, and trash is sitting there for 60 days, well, that's not a great idea especially in the summertime. And so it's an issue for everyone. It's a long process to get somebody evicted.
So this allows the county to go tell the tenant what to do. Is there the owner, hands washed of this whole thing? Does the owner?
No, we get in touch with the owner. The owner's the first point of contact we always get, but a lot of times these tenants just don't care. The only thing for the owner to really be able to do is get an eviction on.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
To Councilwoman's point, if an owner, you go to the owner and say, trash, household garbage, it's an issue, it's piled up. Eviction's not the only option. The owner can go in and clean it up.
We do find it. We do find the owners on it. We give them usually anywhere 15, 30 days.
But
I'll do that.
my point to that is, if they choose to go through the eviction process, that's on them. That's not on the county. Just wants the trash clean. Means the owner can either have the tenant clean it up, or they can clean it up. Is kind of the argument that I think you're trying to make there.
I think the point is though, just being a landlord myself, there's a lot of owners who just, they don't even know what's going on. And it could take you forever. I mean, how many complaints do I have? And oftentimes the owners are just MIA. And if you allow them, we're giving them more flexibility to go directly with that tenant. Just going to give them another tool. And I've seen it. I mean, my tenants, so, I'll be up to you. But most people aren't, a lot of people owners aren't even in the state anymore. I mean, how many times do people call me what property? They're not even in the state.
What if the tenant's there and it's the owner's job?
It's unlikely. Then you get after the owner.
Yeah, that's
Oh, I guess I can't. Is that, as a landlord, I get these type of, I get, no, people will call, let's say Red Hill Road or Trod Road. There were people complaining about junking people. I mean, this went on forever. And it was actually the owners. And it's cases where there was tenants too. Sometimes they couldn't even find the owner. This went on months. I got logs for a year. It's taken them a year to clean something up. Which this gives them another tool to go directly.
And what, fine them?
Yeah.
So you can find the landlord.
We do both.
Does fining work?
Sometimes, yes, but I mean, so one of the things that we've actually followed, and we talked to the magistrate judges. They're gonna start, so 2 people did not show up at court Friday. Both were fined $500 each by the magistrate judge, but it's gonna be a process where we're just writing tickets. If they just not show up at court, nothing's gonna get done. If they just not do, we can write all the tickets, waste all the paper, but if nothing's actually further or more. The magistrate judge, we're gonna have a meeting with them. He's gonna speak with Judge Baker. We're gonna go have another meeting with them about putting bench warrants.
So then they get arrested, but they're still drunk.
Be 30 days.
Okay. So now they're in prison and they're still drunk. Now they're in prison and they're in debt. So what did we solve?
Fines do not always solve the crime. Sometimes they work great and they don't.
Yeah, we can't go out and physically make somebody make them. Fines, the thing we use motivates people. Starts off, magistrate judge usually will start with a $50 fine, court costs, and it'll go higher from there.
You know, there needs to be, when we talked about this, there needs to be a third alternative. Trotter Road was a good example, where all the neighbors were willing to go and clean the property. I mean, you can find somebody into oblivion. They just, some people just don't have that ability. Again, I think there needs to be a third option. That third option needs to be working with like community groups, where a lot of times they want to clean it, but they just told they can't do it for, you know, that was Trotter Road. Trotter Road ultimately got solved, not through the law, but they went in the nursing home. You lived over there. You
Right down.
Yeah, and that's how it got solved, but it took that long.
We have used the Public Employee Service Corps on 2 projects.
That's probably something that needs to, I agree with you. And sometimes it doesn't work.
To me, that sounds like a more effective thing than just finding.
Well, sometimes the fines don't work.
It sounds like the fines don't.
To her, I mean, we used the public service corps to clean this yard completely up, and within a couple of months, it was right back to square one. So,
They can't
Yeah,
maintain.
Then you get into a personal responsibility.
Right.
In that case, was it just physical ability to get out?
the
I think we
mother,
have-
one of them, yes, but it was also just a refusal to take help, because there was a gentleman that offered to come by and pick up the trash for free. And they just wouldn't take the help, continue to right back in the same position it was after everyone went out and helped clean it up.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we adopt 2028, which I just read, but have for a period in excess of 30 days. That's my motion. Do I hear a second? One? Second. Okay, any discussion on that?
Make a motion.
Okay, I'll read it word for word.
Anderson.
It's from Anderson, chapter 20, section 20. No person shall permit trash, garbage, litter, or solid waste, which is not in the litter receptacle or is left exposed to the elements and visible from any public road or adjoining private property to remain on their property for a period in excess of 30 days. This is the recommendation of the administration.
And in that motion, is that an additional section?
Yes,
So that would be section 8 dash what?
they'll put it wherever they want. We'll decide. This, all I'm doing right now is to make a motion, them to create a draft of this. They may want to put all these together in one page. They might want to just. I'm going to give them discretion to do that.
Are you planning to add staff's recommendation to have an agricultural exemption?
Yes, yes, of course, yeah. Yeah, that's part of the motion.
Is ag exemption still 10 acres or more,
What was he?
8 acres or more?
So.
I thought it was 5.
Yeah.
5 acres.
By the state or the county?
Alex, I have a couple of questions here
Okay.
before we run through this motion. I know it's designated so much for one parcel, so that parcel is going to be, it's agricultural is 5 acres, right? What about if it's not under agricultural? Does the size of that parcel differ at all? Requirements?
I get
Does
that's
that
an
make
interesting,
sense?
no, that's an interesting question, because just because they might not have applied.
Well, let's say
for that,
someone has 100-acre parcel that's not under agriculture and has something sitting in the middle of it. Does that apply to this?
it would depend on how we word that exemption. But I think that's an interesting point you raised, because it could be somebody that has another reason they don't want to have
But it
that. And that
says,
shouldn't just exempt them from the ordinance.
but the ordinance just says it has to be visible from a public road or an adjoining private property. So if they've got a pile of trash in the middle of their 100 acres, they can probably.
Okay, let me pose another situation. This is common in Dacresville. We have small business owners that do landscaping, grading, logging, etc. They're not listed as agricultural. They may have all their equipment parked on a 3 to 5 acre parcel. Would they be subject to fines?
Business use.
Yeah, well, see, here is the issue. I know some of these individuals have older vehicles that they have parked and they're moving parts off of them to keep their other equipment operational.
Well, that really wouldn't be under trash. That's gonna be the abandoned.
Okay.
We'll get to abandoned vehicles.
All right.
All right, so, well, let me ask you a question. Do you want to change the wording on that to household trash, garbage, litter? Is that, or are you happy with just trash?
I think
Just trash.
I think I understand the intent. I feel we're getting on people's property.
We are.
Very concerned.
I was gonna, can I ask, that actually brings up a great point. Leaves and grass, by definition, could be trash. It's not garbage per se, but we're strict about bringing brown goods to our recycle centers, right? And limbs and leaves count as, so if I have a large pile that sits there for more than 15 days, would I be in violation of this ordinance if it were to pass? By definition, if I need to ask the attorney in the room, I would.
Well, like I said, I would define it differently as household.
So can we put in
That's
there
cleaner.
non-degradable trash? Those tree limbs and things like that.
Yeah, I guess. how long-
Everything's
Yeah,
biodegradable.
eventually,
If you got, you got 60 years, yeah, maybe. Grass, tree limbs, leaves, things like that. Depending on how big the tree is.
I think household
I think household makes sense.
garbage would make it a cleaner definition.
All right, so I'm gonna make a substitute motion. Same thing. But it's gonna be household trash, garbage, litter, and solid waste.
Why not eliminate the word garbage as well? So it just says household trash, litter, or solid waste.
That's fine. Household trash, litter, or solid waste. That's my substitute motion. Here, second. Any discussion on that? Okay, so this is gonna be a vote for draft. All it's not a first reading.
This is just for them to,
Create language for the next one. Those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, passes 5-1. The next item up is junking yards.
we
Now,
just did junk.
we just did trash.
Trash and junk.
Okay, junking yard, what is the current ordinance and what do you recommend?
Same page, isn't it?
No, that's 1076 is the junk. I didn't go.
3 is junk vehicles.
That's junk. Definition of junk, where you're at.
Now, I'm right here. 1076.
Right.
Now, where we were before is the one that started.
Right, so that was trash and junk yards, and this is junk vehicles.
It should. Okay, so what do you have? 1076 is the current ordinance, just give us a skinny on that.
Mr. Chairman, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Just procedurally, I think we had a motion on the floor, and then we had a substitute motion with a second. And then the
Vote.
5-1 was on the substitute motion.
Done.
But do we need to go back and
Substitute motion wipes out the previous one.
wipe some? Okay.
Yes. Okay,
So in the current, section 10-76, shall be unlawful for any person, corporation, or business entity to have upon its premises items of junk or abandoned vehicles unless each vehicle is covered with a car cover. Tarps are not allowed or stored in a totally enclosed building. All junk is to be out of view of all roads and adjacent properties. All requirements of this article must be met within 180 days of the effective date. And this article shall not apply to any business storing 5 or fewer vehicles subject to valid garage liens as provided by state statute. This article shall not apply to farm equipment located on property having an agricultural tax exemption. What we recommend is that all vehicles just be out of sight from the roadway unless it has a current updated license plate. If a limit is desired, we are recommending that it be 2 vehicles per parcel. That's how Anderson County does their rule.
okay.
This one doesn't separate junk from vehicles.
That's what I want to
The
recommend.
current one.
That's what I want to recommend. I want to recommend an ordinance that goes after junk, which is the definition that Mr. Bowers was talking about, less the word trash, kind of where I'm going. That would be like 1076A. And 1076B would be abandoned vehicles. 2 different things. You got them intertwined. That's what I'm leaning towards now. What is everybody up? This, believe me, the abandoned vehicle is going to be the toughest one. We can do the junk first, if you want to separate them. What are your thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna bring up something that's gonna get me in trouble with a lot of folks. Okay. There's a lot of art there these days that I consider to be trash or junk. When I think about the movie Twister and the woman that was doing the welding, and it ended up being a beautiful piece and all the things, but you think about all that metal and all that, and that was junk that she called art, what I call junk. That's where I worry about these guys and when we talk about junk. Now, I understand the spirit behind 1076 100%. And I can drive you around Pickens County and show you all kinds of legitimate junk. But I'm afraid of the spirit of one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Well, my question is, this is already on the books now.
Correct.
Are you having that problem? Is there any art that people think is art and junk in your like?
People that have 50 cars that they said they're gonna fix up, they've been saying it for the last 40 years. That's
I also want to clarify, are we going to talk about abandoned vehicles?
No,
here?
we're just talking about junk.
We're just talking about junk, so leave vehicles out of it.
Yeah.
So just junk. Like the Bilo cow. Someone could call the Bilo cow in Bakersfield junk. Now, I don't. I think it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Related. The enforcement of these ordinances, is it done by driving around and seeing someone's yard and saying, you should knock on that guy's door, or is it done by complaint?
Most of it is done by complaints. If we see something that's just completely outrageous, we'll stop in and make contact with that. Almost all of our stuff is by phone in. We have an online reporting tool, and even like building codes, stormwater, whenever they have ordinance issues, they come to us and we'll do an investigation.
So someone is saying that.
Again, it's all relative. And also too, think about this, it's visible from the property line. What if somebody buys the property next to you and it's not visible from the property line, and they come in and clear everything now? That's not your fault.
I'm
I'm just putting it out there.
I'm just saying, it regularly is 4 or 5 running complaints in my district. All the time. All the time. I don't know what's happening in your district. My district is, people get closer and closer together. You know,
I guess I'm fortunate that nobody's complaining.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I get
since I've been here. None.
The 2 biggest complaints that I in the last several years. One was a building that just didn't have a roof on it. And it was right before you were going into the city of Easley. That one, and I believe we ended up tearing that one down, doing a tax lien kind of thing.
They didn't tear it down. There was trash that was dumped there. That was the only thing we really forced there. I mean, that was a stand use.
Good.
I thought you referred to the grocery stand. I think.
No.
Sorry about that.
Not that. The other one was actually Mr. Holloway's district, which was the mobile home that when I took off the middle off the side, how it's mobile home. I think that was been rectified. If I'm not mistaken. And I got a positive email on that. But through the types of complaints that I get, those are pretty cut and dry. I mean, those are pretty cut and dry.
That, excuse me, one question. In that case, would that not go back to building code instead of y'all?
Yeah,
It's a
those
structure.
are structural concerns, which, and the environmental does have, we can deem something derelict, but
That's what becomes unsafe.
You've got that house on Knollwood Heights. Burned down. There's somebody living in it for the longest time. There wasn't an ordinance on the books that you. Now, I'm not saying touch people's houses. We're just in people's yards at this point. There was not.
At this point, that's what I'm saying,
Well,
you're in the yard.
Well,
The next step is in the house.
You don't know, Mike.
It happens
You
little
have-
by, it
you have
happens
no
little
idea
by
what-
little.
You're assigning motives to me. I'm saying that what he was talking about, there's no ordinances in that case. I know what somebody living in that house, half burned. We're not going to do anything about it, but this stuff goes on all the time, and everybody.
Do we not have an ordinance on the book, if you don't have power, sanitary conditions, power and water, that you can't inhabit?
and have it, but that doesn't do anything for removal of the structure itself. It's
It's gonna
gonna,
say if somebody's living,
Somebody was.
Most of the time, like that case, the guy that was living there wasn't supposed to be there. It's like squatters.
Yeah.
Several different places in Davisville where it was a known kind of a drug house. Guy that was out of town, the owner of it, but there was about 15 people in and out there even after it burnt down. That's one of the big issues we're having is people that aren't supposed to be there. But they're
does
coming
the
in.
sheriff's office get involved at that point?
They do.
Shouldn't they?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's not an ordinance on the book to do anything about that. It's still there. There could be somebody living in it right now. I mean, these neighbors have to call this, you know, there's only so much they can do. I tell you, I live, because I knock those blocks all the time I run. I get these complaints. There's somebody living in that house. You know, and they can only go back so many times. And like I said, we're not even doing anything about it, which is not the subject tonight. My point is, some of these other things, I don't know. I think we need to take action.
Junk would be a situation like you said where they took the siding off the trailer. If they did not haul that off and they just throw it around the yard, that's what, in my opinion, would be considered junk. That's something I think should be able to enforce on our end.
Now, let me ask you this, is construction debris junk?
That's already in it's in the verbiage somewhere about
Is it?
construction. Yes, sir.
Is it, like I said, I was looking for it, I didn't see it, it's junk.
I think it is solid waste. I can look it up.
Sounds familiar.
Okay, so, I'm gonna try again, I'm gonna make another motion. What it's gonna be is just a general directive to them. Adopt, the definition of junk without the word trash. And it's gonna divide 1076 into like an A and B section, or however they wanna do it. Junk is one thing separate with rules. And then it's got abandoned vehicles. We'll get to later. That's my motion. Do I hear a second on that? There's very little change. All it's doing is just taking out that word trash, dividing those things into two.
You're not wanting to change the.
We haven't done.
We haven't done that.
You just have to separate
Separate.
junk. That's fine.
Any discussion on that?
We'll vote for second.
Okay, it's very innocuous. It just makes it clearer to somebody who's reading it. Any discussion on that? Okay, those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. But the junk ordinance is fine, right? Because I thought I went out one guy and he said he was having trouble with construction. Do you have trouble with that? You do?
There's one, typically at 6
No,
months.
but I mean, is the ordinance actually allows you to get construction.
Yeah,
It does, okay.
I think it's on the solid waste, but I'll get.
You might want to double check it tonight. Because I don't know. All right, next item is, let's do abandoned vehicles.
Mr. Chair, before we move on, I have one question popped in my mind. It's a scenario I know I'll deal with in my district. If someone had lumber stick packed under 10, would that be considered junk or building trash? Just building material.
That would all kind of, you said it's under 10. I see where you get into a situation there. It's something we could potentially write and it'd be up to a magistrate judge to decide.
A good example of that, somebody bought a sawmill.
Yeah.
Somebody bought a sawmill and they're starting to cut lumber. To me, that's not junk.
There's a situation, like I say, about 6 months, we ran into a guy that builds panels, does freezers, and he has those panels laying everywhere. And you can tell some of those have been sitting there for years. They're not gonna be, go keep around and say, like, just in case, but there's probably over 50 of them. We got that case. That's,
That neighbors complain.
Okay, next item up is, and what is the junk, how many days is it?
it's,
180.
180 days?
That's from the time it's physically passed.
Yeah, I think I was intended to say like, hey, public, 180 days to clean your yards up. I don't think it really means 180 now.
Should we make that clear since it's 30 days?
I mean, I think that would help. 180 is a
Okay, so
long
for the
time.
junk portion, I'm making a motion against the 30-day. Okay, any discussion on that? Those in favor, raise your right hand. So how many right hands went up? 1, 2, 3, fail? No?
I'm a no on this.
Okay.
So there's ambiguity on some of the things.
Okay, so that was a 3-3. So changing that to 30 days, the junk fails, 3-3? Is that what we intended to do? Guys who voted nay? Okay.
Leave it alone.
All right, next up is abandoned vehicles. What do you have? Current, or just read it one more time.
for the abandoned vehicles right now, these vehicles be covered with a car cover, tarps are not allowed or stored in a totally enclosed building. One thing that if you're gonna allow vehicles to still be seen from roadways and be covered, I would recommend taking it 5 to 2. But my recommendation would just be get it out of view. Put it around backyard, just get it out of view, neighbors outside. No problem.
So all of your unworking cars.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't have a problem with 5 and be able to see. I'm a car guy.
Okay,
Mr. Bowers knows one dog.
so what you're saying is 5 abandoned vehicles that are 10, not 10, could be just on the property and
They have to be covered up.
car cover.
Why is a tarp not a car cover?
Car cover is a major custom.
Over time, there's where it's.
So, for clarification, I've got a 1994 E350 cutaway with a box on the back. Where am I gonna buy a car cover for that?
Stick it in your garage.
I don't have a garage.
Stick it behind your house.
I am surrounded on 4 corners by road.
Put a tag.
How many other?
I don't wanna tag it because it doesn't run. I'm saving it for the transmission, for the rear diff, for the brake calipers, for the axles, for the rims, for the front end clip, for the seats, for the electrical wiring harness, for the, it doesn't run.
For another vehicle that you currently have, the same one that does.
Absolutely.
Break it down.
Do what?
Kind of like farm equipment for existing, that kind of stuff. The only other option on that one.
You see my argument.
Do the same thing that
This-
you
yeah.
argued about the farm equipment.
Yeah, because there's several cases in my district to be in violation if we move in this direction.
Well, and I'm gonna shoot you straight. This is real. Just like these, I don't own a rental piece of property. So arguing landlord versus tenant doesn't make a hell of any difference. I think a landlord should be responsible for their property, doesn't make a hell of any difference to me. I do own a fleet of vehicles. I buy sister vehicles all the time because it's cheaper to go to LKQ and buy a part for your personal vehicle versus going and ordering it in advance or anywhere else. I find a sister vehicle, I buy it. It now becomes a donor vehicle. No intent to register, insure, or ever drive. Because I'm gonna steal the parts off of it. As soon as I stole everything off of it, I can steal off of it. I'm gonna take it over to the scrap yard. I'm gonna sell it for whatever they'll give me. They're gonna scrap it, and we're gonna do it all over again. That's where I keep my fleet of vehicles on the road. Truth of the matter is, Pickens County does the exact same thing. We got cars that'll sit down there in the yard that we'll steal parts off of until we can't anymore. And you can see it from 183. One of it, there's more than two sitting down there right now that we're doing that.
But the question I have is, how many vehicles could you have that are abandoned on private property before you have to get a salvage?
Anything more than 5.
You can have up to 5. Have more than 5, you know, force them to get a junkyard.
We done that anytime recently?
Yeah. Did that once on Brick on,
I know we talked to
288.
one, but they came into compliant.
They
They
got
didn't
rid
go
of a
that-
couple
They
vehicles.
didn't
so
go
they-
that way.
I think we received a complaint. Forwarded that to you.
so farm,
That-
so farm equipment's exempt from
If you.
Only-
Farm is
only if you have-
taxed.
on agricultural.
Which means you have to live on private.
If the farm, if it's
And-
tax exempt as a farm.
And qualified.
But if it ain't, equipment is sitting there. It's equipment.
Right.
So what about somebody who's like picking up wrecks?
That's all.
They're exempt in here, right?
So somebody like a
So
garage.
it's- So they're running their business.
Because they would have to have their own ordinance to plan, and they would have to have everything, buffer zone and all that already set up.
Right. It will be a tow yard at that.
Right. They would have all the rules followed, but it's fine.
So currently, the county is getting involved if you have more than 5, or if you don't have them covered. So we do already have an ordinance. What all we're considering is, should we lower that number or talk to people about the quality of their.
Right, or we're getting completely out of this.
Well, actually, what I'm advocating is put it aside. Because
Outside of whom? Everybody?
recycling the road. Because when you go, I
The
go
road, but what if your neighbor?
But if you go upside down, deal with these complaints. I can take you to houses, Red Hill Road. He's got a vehicle on his front lawn, whatever, which had a cover on it about 8 months ago because he got a complaint. It doesn't have a cover anymore. This is a piece of junk sitting in his front yard. He had somebody come to county council, complain about it. And that thing will stay there forever. This is a residential area. Right around the blocks on North Homestead, same thing. People, they just give up. They give up. They realize that the government's not gonna.
So you want the number to be 0, though?
No,
You've got one car.
no. I'm saying it's 5 is fine. I don't want to change that. But if you have a vehicle abandoned, you don't have a tag on it, put it in the garage, put it in the fence. I mean, I've wrenched on cars my whole life. It's not a foreign concept for a car to garage. Move it to the back. It really is for me. I've done it. But
I got a question for clarification, and I do have a law enforcement officer in the back of the room that can, whatever, I back a car in my yard. You have no probable cause to come look, see if I got a tag on it or not, right?
roadway or
The front of the vehicle is visible, but if the back is not, you have no probable cause to go look on my property. You understand the question, right?
listen up. Chris, you just look it up. You go to the tax office and they pay you. That's your solution.
I'm actually trying not to limit car people on the leg because.
Well, right now it's limited to 5. So if they have more than 5 without tags, they're gonna be forced to get a junkyard
Or get 5 vehicles covered.
or cover the 5 vehicles. Now, let me ask you a question about the abandoned vehicle part where it says, let's see, you move the vehicle. When you move the vehicle, that starts the clock over again.
Technically, the way it's defined, yeah. Move it 5 feet.
That's exactly what happens. So what they'll do is they'll say, it's not abandoned for 180 days, 179 now, and then they move it 10, clock starts over. This is the kind of games that people play all the time. I don't know, I would do something about it. I'm gonna make a motion, it'll live and die on its own. Okay, keep it at five cars. Above that, 5 abandoned vehicles, you gotta get a junkyard license, that's what it is now. You have a separate section for that, you probably, like the other, like I said before. You have the exemptions for junkyards, garages, you have the exemption for farm equipment, property. And it's gotta be out of sight from the road, from a public road, not a private road. But the only thing I'm really changing, having a car, is it's going to out of sight. That's my motion, do I hear a second? Once, twice, or a second. All right, next item up is the, overgrown vegetation. What's the current ordinance?
Currently, there is no language in code ordinance to address it.
So how is it you're able to, I had complaints with people's grass was up to their windows. You were able to go in there and do something about it.
We usually just
We ask.
ask.
You ask.
Go up and we'll ask, but if there's nothing we can actually enforce, we'll go up and ask. We don't send any violation letters, we don't send anything like that, we just ask if they get the
Have you encountered someone that's growing an apple?
I haven't personally, not in our case. Usually what we get is just people that just don't cut their, they just, for whatever reason, they just let everything grow up. It's the same situation.
It's a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's-
Automated
I know
process.
B well has something like that.
Yeah.
Naturally, yeah. But I haven't had anybody come and tell me that's what they're doing. I mean, every case that I've had, my guys have had has just been somebody's overgrown, haven't cut it for whatever reason.
Overseasoned guys, right?
So you have exemptions?
We would recommend the same.
Anderson goes through various list of allowed grasses and not allowed grasses, for Latin names.
I'll look.
Litter officers can plant biology.
So this is basically just talking about overgrown grass, not bushes, it's not anything like that, just grass.
A certain
Grass
height of
and
grass.
Okay, so you recommend 15 inches? All right, I'll make a motion to do that, so I'll hear a second. Once, twice, 3 times. The next item is, the last item is pool, abandoned pools. What do you-
Currently, there's no language in Pickens County code of ordinances to address abandoned pools. Greenville County adopted property maintenance code in 2016 that includes language for swimming pools. Our recommendation is a pool shall be maintained in a clean sanitary condition and good repair. If the pool is not in operational order, it must be drained. Work over to life safety purposes.
What kind of problems you having with this?
It's not a big one, but it's one that's been out there more. It's usually more there in the summertime because when these pools get abandoned, people don't use them. It becomes a mosquito issue. That's the main call that we have is just neighboring properties have had issues with that. I just thought it'd also be a problem if some child or somebody else were to accidentally get over there and fall in a swimming pool. It's not covered or maintained like it's supposed
So that's my question. I know in city limits, if you build a pool, you have requirements around it, a certain height and a locked gate and all this stuff. Is any of that in the county requirements or part of our building codes?
to. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so these pools all do have fences around.
If they were built when the current code was adopted.
Oh,
I mean, some of them have been there so
We can go to Walmart, about $300. See it.
or it's above
well, that's the question. Is this only for in-ground pools?
not limited. Currently.
This one's tricky. So far, to be honest, I'm really surprised we've been talking through all of this because the number one issue, I mean, first noting, all of my constituents are innocent. So I have no,
Separate.
no, I'm a completely separate set of rules. But I've sat here for 2 years and listened to people complain to us about not wanting to be annexed. The number one reason they don't want to be annexed is because they don't want to be in a city and follow city rules. And when I'll be like, why don't you want to be in a city? Our trash gets picked up. It's great. And they're part of their thing is I don't want anyone telling me what to do with my property. And it's interesting that we've sat here and talked about property. And I get it. I get that this is trouble, but it's to me, it's part of why you live in county or city. Why you make that choices on
That's what I'm saying.
what you do with your land. And it seems like there's some agreement about that. Pools to me is slightly separate here because you start to have a life safety issue. And you start to have the mosquito issue where it can also be a life safety issue. So, but what I wonder though, instead of doing it in this sort of thing, is there a building codes? Y'all default to that sometimes when you tell us version of that we could use for pool safety that just because you also start talking about cleaning them. I know during the housing recession, California had this issue with all these just algae-filled swamps that were in people's homes, but there was some kind of safety.
Unfortunately for building codes, it's only the process of building. So for the length of the, and once that's done, building codes does not have a say in the maintenance of said thing.
Okay.
Which is where code enforcement is in.
So this is one where I think it makes some sense because we're talking about life safety, especially if you're encountering ones that don't have.
Keep in mind, above ground pools don't follow those same requirements because they're.
But y'all are saying that if someone has an above ground pool in their backyard and they've left it, it has to be drained.
Actually, a professionally installed boat. That's stuff Chris is talking about. Going to
The ones you
Walmart
buy
and
from
buying.
Walmart.
Yeah, I mean, like it's weird to tell you to get there in your Walmart pool, but I don't want you to leave it for.
I know THEC doesn't exist in agency do that. With a mosquito
DES is
issue.
not responsible.
So,
We've
Mr.
done.
Chairman, that was actually gonna be my question. If you have a swimming pool that you stop taking care of, you, in theory, have a pond. And you give it enough time, you're gonna have problems. Somehow or another, you'll end up with fish in there. Look how that works, but it happens. So you have a pond. what's the difference between a pond mosquito issue and a concrete pond mosquito issue? And how do we
Cement pump.
see
Yeah.
pond, not apology, mosquito issue? Because I actually do see a life safety issue here, legitimately. I do, but I feel like you kind of have to treat them very similarly. It's kind of like tires. One of the biggest problems with abandoned tires isn't the fact that you have the abandoned tires, it's the water, which now you're harboring mosquitoes and, you know, all the things, right? So that's kind of the way I'm looking at this one with the pools. Drowning is a thing and a huge risk, but I'm looking at it as more of a mosquito. So how do you treat if Chris's pond is full of algae and causing mosquito issues for me next door, how do we treat that?
Kind of this, is it already, is it not?
Well, in the pool case, you'll actually treat it because you have an ordinance. You'll be biting it. You know, like I said, I can give you examples of other ones. It was pulled in here.
Again, I just. If you're slow,
In the city, there's your pond, once your pond reaches a certain, it's a pool, and then you have to fence it, you know, like pond to the pool, that makes it. Not the county.
And then I'm not aware of any pool issues in my donut holes, but some in a very similar situation.
Yeah.
What are you recommending wording?
That wording does come from the property management.
So maintain and clean and sanitary condition in good repair. If it's not, pool's not an operational or must be drained, covered for safety and fire purposes. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve that. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second
Any discussion on this?
Why, if it's drained, why does it have to also be covered? Also, it could be covered and not drained,
We
like
could do or instead of
drained or
or I could-
covered.
substitute motion that and or covered.
Okay, I'll second that.
Which could turn into like a.
Skate park.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Passes 4-2. You voted no? Okay. Okay, that wraps that. So you'll come, oh, let's see, one thing I want to do. I want to make a motion to have this first reading. Right now. Not what we just did, but just the title only first reading. So that when you present us language, September, it'll be a second. Does that make sense?
Can't do that, can you?
Can I do that?
I don't believe that's in order. I don't think that's, the ordinance was not noticed on the agenda. What was noticed was discussion of proposal. Staff presentation on abandoned vehicles, pools, overgrown vegetation, trash and junk in yards, and proposed ordinance changes.
So I can't make a motion for title only on that? In title only on
In
it?
my opinion, no, sir.
What do you think? I think we've done this before, no?
We have.
I think it was in the motion. Like the motion that we just made on the pool. You make the motion then because it's proposed ordinance motion. I think you could argue, and this is just, I'm not an attorney, I'm a pretty good nurse and decent family. I think you could argue the fact that the proposed ordinance changes. But here again, we did start all this conversation with saying this is just for staff to bring this back to drafts. And now we're saying it's gonna be, and that's where it's gonna look, for the FOIA reasons, very,
Okay,
very.
what we'll do is we'll just have first reading. You'll present us drafts. Okay. All right, that wraps that up.
Okay, well, can I add to that? One thing I appreciated that y'all made is a suggestion to consolidate with. Let's just have that together and anything we can do to make that giant.
streamline.
Yeah, so anything that's.
One thing I am in agreement on.
Well, let me ask you this, because I have two questions. So you think that, because there was very little change. I mean, it almost makes sense to just keep it where it's at.
Well, unless part of their looking at it,
I mean,
It's all over. the place.
when you look at, but the thing is, the reason the junk is separate because the junk is part of that 1076, there's kind of those junkyards in there and things like that. Now, you wouldn't want to mix household trash in there. I'm kind of torn. I think if we would have done something, substantial, I think you could put it all in one place. There really wasn't a lot changed. I mean, we just put,
I'm sorry.
all we did was, instead of tenants having to worry about trash in their yards, it's not tenants and owners. Junk, we changed the definition a little bit. And we added pools.
We didn't change tenants.
No, we didn't. What we did was tenants remained.
Oh, it said no person.
Yeah, it was no person, so it's get to the owners of the property, so that was it. I don't think we really added, I mean, you can do what you want, I mean, I would just leave it where it's at this point.
Mr. Chairman, what I would say there is, let's look at that, because I agree with you, it's not wholesale changes, but it might be an opportunity cost if we don't go ahead and look at, is there a better way to arrange this to make it work better for the public
Okay.
and for staff? So let's
That's
look
fine.
at it.
We'll leave that open. We'll have that first reading.
3 readings.
Well, it is very cumbersome to try to navigate, try to find everything.
It worked for the public. They're not used to looking at that.
Let me ask you one final question. The litter control officer is a class 3 officer. Now, the code officers, are they class 3 officers too?
They cannot be.
You cannot be class 3.
Could is there a possibility that they could have a gun in the badge?
Is it?
Yes.
According to that letter,
There's an Attorney General's
It's
opinion.
old from 1907, but Attorney General's opinion, yes. Discretion.
I mean, do you feel safe out there?
In some situations.
Yeah, I get it.
Currently, we call in law enforcement.
Sheriff's
I'm
always
sure.
been great, but sometimes they don't always have the manpower to come out there.
What do you think about that, Mr. Administrator?
I know that in days gone by, you could have a county constable that had different authorities. A lot of that's been standardized. I know now a lot of guidance from Criminal Justice Academy and from the Attorney General. I just know we've always operated under the premise that code enforcement officer couldn't, litter control or environmental enforcement officer could. I don't know about a should. We can research that.
What's your opinion on it?
Mr. Chairman, I just point of order, it's not on the agenda for a nice discussion.
Okay. All right, next item is gonna be, 2B, it's gonna be an, overview of existing agreements and contracts. Mr. Roper?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll tell you that I'm going to go through several individual sort of one-off odd agreements that the county is in one way or the other. Some of these are going to apply to different ones of you in different ways. Almost all of them are going to have some sensitivity to them. And so what I want to do is tonight, I'm not wanting to get into a debate about the merits. I want to put it on everyone's radar, and then I want to suggest a process that we go through over the next few months, where we, you individually and myself, work on where should we go, and ultimately come back to county council for approval. But to do that, I want you all to have an overview of these agreements. And I've got most of this information here, but I'll end up giving it to you as a part of this process to move forward. But these are existing agreements with contracts with nonprofits and municipalities. Again, they're one-off things that the county government generally doesn't do, but we're doing it in this case. And some predecessor, no one at this stage, but some predecessor to everyone at this stage thought, this is a good idea. And it might be, but it might be that we need to revisit. The first one I would say is Haygood Mill. This is an agreement that's been in place since 2019. That first year, the county paid, and that number may not be exactly right, $134,000. It was supposed to decrease each year thereafter. Some years it has decreased, and some years it has not. The contract automatically renews year to year with a 90-day notice to cancel, set up sort of like a lease. The maintenance responsibility is a little bit vague because the negotiations got down at the very end, and that was left vague. And I say that AS and KR are already in discussions with HMF. That's code. It's not meant to be code. It just fits on the screen that way. Mr. Sada, the chairman, and I have already been in discussions with the Hagen Mill Foundation and are very, very, very close to a final agreement. That's really the impetus. What led to all these other agreements is that we knew we were getting close. So hopefully we'll be able to bring one back to you soon on the Hagen Mill and finalize a new agreement, a clear agreement, more straightforward agreement.
Mr. Redford, as you go through these, can I ask, we need to clarify agreement on whether or not they're shaped?
Oh, it's a very good point. Yes, so this one's a written agreement back in 2019. It is, but I will do that. Ponderosa Park. This one ended up being interesting. We did a little research on this, Mr. Wallace. The county purchased this property in 1995 and offered it to the town. The town annexed it in 1996. Through our research, we discovered in that 1996 ordinance that the town agreed to, quote, operate and maintain the site. Through the years, different city or town fathers and mothers have come and gone and have forgotten that. So our real approach to them is going to probably need, and Mr. Wallace and I will need to work on this, to clarify what's already county and town law, so to speak, based on their annexation, was conditioned on them doing that. From the town's perspective, they've advocated that maintenance is unclear. There's no written document, otherwise distracting it. So that will be one where we'll just have to reiterate the understanding. It looks from the records I was able to pull that once in a generation, the administrator has to send the town 6 miles mayor a letter saying you agreed that you would operate and maintain this. So that one I think will resolve itself pretty quickly because I think it's pretty clear. Dacusville Rec Center, that I can find no written agreement in any of the archives I have. And I know that's a big ongoing program that the Dacusville Rec Center out there has. Their rec program is pretty big, and I know they struggle. They are all volunteer. And the maintenance of that facility is unclear. We do work orders out there from time to time, but not on a regular basis. So Dr. Holloway and I will have our work cut out for us, trying to figure out the path forward there. Good people running that rec program, by the way. Dacusville Community Center, the county purchased that in 2011 from the school district of Pickens County. I said no one at the table was actually involved in any of this. I think you're on the school board, Mr. Sada, and that was a good move by the school at the time. But the Dacusville Community Center, there's no written agreement that I've been able to locate. And although I feel like there is one somewhere, maintenance is unclear on that. And I know that we end up doing a lot of one-to-one sort of handshake deals with the Dacusville Community Center to try to figure out ways that we can do a little work to help them continue. But a lot of challenges there at the Dacusville Community Center.
How is there no paperwork from a major sale to?
No. The sale had paperwork. It's the subsequent agreement where I can't locate anything.
The operational agreement was separated from the sale, though. That's your problem.
The county bought it using rec funds in 2011, so it was dictated at that time by one council, the way rec funds worked back then. Right. Has that in common with the Liberty Performing Arts Center. That was changed when, I guess in 2016, 17, when that changed to go to a more transparent system. But this will be a challenge because there's some good stuff going on at the Dacusville Community Center, but we need to figure out a way to make it predictable for all parties in order for it to work. Again, another challenge for Dr. Holloway. Pickens County Performing Arts Center, the agreement was in 2021. It's a 3-year lease. That 3-year lease, of course, has expired now, but it automatically renews for 1-year periods unless it's canceled by October 1st of each year. The rent that the company that rents the Performing Arts Center, not the Performing Arts Center Foundation, that's a whole other issue. It's connected. But the company, the production company that rents it, is supposed to pay a percentage of its gross profits every year. They did that in year 1 and 2, but in 2024, they never submitted anything to us, so we're going to have to have a sit down with them. We do maintain the grounds because it's adjacent to our magistrates. So we're already doing that. And we do some limited interior cleaning. I've got work orders to show what we're doing there. So this is a conversation that needs to be had that I'll be working with Mr. Lang on refreshing. Clemson Paul Partners, I would say of all these agreements, this is probably the one that has been the most wildly successful in the sense that Clemson Paul Partners ask almost nothing of the county. And just is out there doing the Lord's work. They're out there. That agreement was in 2020. It's a written agreement. They pay $10 a year to rent that facility, and in exchange, they provide all sorts of treatment and adoption services for animals in that part of the county. It automatically renews, 90-day notice to cancel. We're responsible for, it says rood, it should say roof, I apologize for the typo. And exterior walls, any walls only, which is not a big burden for us because we have an EMS station there. That building is the same building as our EMS station. So we're doing that anyway. I think this one's going well, and I think this will be a good conversation with Margaret Thompson and Clemson Paul Partners about how we might could refine it. But in general, I think it's working. Town of Central Fire, I will tell you, Mr. Wallace, you and I have talked about this a little bit. The agreement, the last renewal was in 2023. At that time, I think it was a little over $125,000 per year that we pay to the town for them to have a couple of firemen that are available to work at our fire station across from Daniel High School. It increases 2.5% each year.
Who's paying him?
We are paying them $125,000 a year to basically reimburse them for the positions they're providing, the firemen in that fire station across from them.
Do those firemen also service the city?
They do, yeah.
The town?
They do.
Contract.
2 per shift.
Total.
I think it's 2 total. That's different than what you'll see in another.
So that's 2 total firemen. Period. Okay.
Now, this dates, the idea of this agreement dates from a time when the town of Central had its fire department and Central Rural Fire had its own fire board. And the best thing for them to do at that time was contract with the town to provide that service. Frankly, we've outgrown that. I've told the city or the town administrator we've outgrown that. We're better situated to provide personnel in our fire station across from Daniel High School than the town of Central is. But it's going to be a conversation that needs to be had. 270 days advance notice to cancel.
That 125,000 a year, is that provide equipment?
It doesn't. It does not.
Strictly salary.
Strictly salary.
So we're paying whatever a year.
Includes benefits. The area that it covers is the old Central Rural Fire District.
So that's our fire from Pickens County. Maybe not that one, but the one that sits in the station.
The one that sits in the station should be ours, yes, although I think they do ship them around.
The station belongs to Pickens County.
The station belongs to Pickens County. The property underneath the station belongs to Forestry.
Now, you're talking about the one in Daniel. I'm talking about not the downtown.
No. I'm talking about the one at Daniel High School.
Yeah.
That building and the equipment inside that building, the deep fire engine, let's say there's only one. It's ours. I think that, really not.
Now, the most complicated one here is the city of Easley.
That's why.
That's why he's asking these questions. And again, Mr. Bowers, Counselor, there's a lot of work to be done here. I know this is somewhat controversial. Agreement was back in 2017. It was a hard negotiated agreement. I remember that agreement. A lot of angst. But basically, at the time, we agreed to pay $495,000 per year. That's increased 2.5% each year. I apologize for not having the current amount, but that's a math problem we can do. It automatically renews. There's a 2-year advance notice to cancel that. And it covers the old Easley Rural Fire District, which I'll show you a map of. The old Easley Rural Fire District is the stuff that's, would we call that kind of brown chocolate? Yellow is inside the city. One idiosyncrasy of this agreement is the dark brown, the black areas, are areas that the city has annexed since this agreement. They've annexed several places since this agreement, and yet we're still paying them to provide fire coverage inside their because the contract didn't contemplate this. Frankly, our needs, and the Emergency Services Board is working on this right now. But frankly, from my point of view, our needs are more in the Croswell area, that Easley would be better situated to provide us service in the Croswell area, and that we, based on what we're doing now and where we intend to expand, could be better situated to provide service in Easley. So this will be a very interesting conversation for, I guess, frankly, me and Mr. Bowers to have, but this is going to also impact Dr. Holloway and Mr. Lang. because they come right up to the city limits, both of them, and come into the city limits. This one's gonna be a more complicated conversation, and I have some thoughts on that beyond the scope. But I wonder, and I've talked to the city of Easley, their staff, not their elected officials, but their staff, about the fact that this conversation needs to happen. I'll move on.
Just trying to figure out what the strip of land is.
It's sticking up.
No. It's like-
Straight line?
like-
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
I'm wondering if that's the old Woodside Mill, type of little road. Oh.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, but we will figure that out. It's gonna be an interesting conversation. Hopefully. That was good. So a path forward on all of these agreements, I think the first step is for me to gather the information, which I've got much of that here with me tonight, to then provide it to the affected counselors, so look for that to come to you. And then we discuss amongst ourselves, what parts of this need to be modified. We approach all parties to the agreement and seek to work out new, up-to-date agreements that will need to come back to the full council. That's the only way that could work. It would have to be passed by the full council. So I put this as one of the goals that I set for the last few months, and I'll tell you of the year, and I'll tell you why. I see these operational challenges that are happening that aren't necessary. Town Central providing us fire service, not needed. I know we could do more efficient work ourselves. I also see us struggling with putting you all in political situations that you don't deserve, where a town or a nonprofit says, why can't you help me, the guy before you did? And you end up having to try to, without a budget for it or anything else, try to figure out a way that you can help those constituents of yours, and the staff ends up caught in that. So it's a better practice, I think, for us to just put all of that on the table, see if we can't work out agreements. It may be that the agreement is we actually provide a little more service than we've been providing in some areas, and a little less in others, things that we're situated well to do. So I'll probably follow the model that Mr. Sada, the chairman, and I have been using in conversation with the Hagan Mill. As I said, we're almost, I think we've almost got Hagan Mill, that horse in the barn. It seems like there should be an analogy, I think, there. But regardless, it seems like we're close. So that's that issue, and that's why it's important to me as staff, build predictability in as we look to budget year to year.
Any thoughts on that? Any questions?
You're gonna provide us each, whichever one. Fire.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman, yes, absolutely.
It might be interesting just to have, along with this information, is a brief history on rec funds that have gone to these nonprofits.
Okay.
Like, maybe we don't have an official agreement with Dickinsville Community Center or with the Pickens Performing Arts Center, but if we have 5 or 8 years of regular 10 grand plus rec funds, then that sort of shows that we have really funded them in a way that they may be dependent on, that we should look at. Do that alongside.
Thank you.
One of the things I think is key and it's important to him is that the agreements are somewhat useful. So he's gonna be the one that's gonna, like, for example, when we talked to the Hagan Mill, which they approached us about updating them, we just said we can't do that because we wouldn't be able to do that for so and so and so. We just told them no. So, and then in the end, I mean, whenever you do this kind of division of labor like we're doing, the agreements have to be reasonable and uniform. Always. So like, the Hagan Mill is not getting this, but this is some other organization getting that. It's not, the whole thing's gonna break down. Go back to the whole council doing it forever. So just keep in mind that he's the one that, he pretty much said, this is what I can do for them, this is what I can't do for them. I just was like, okay. They want all the new air conditioners. It's just impossible to do that, because then you have to do it for all 6 or 7 of these. And just keep that in mind. That's the constraint that they may not like.
Right.
I have a question.
Okay.
Dealing with 2 fire departments, it'll be different. All partners, farming aren't, they separate.
Oh, yeah, 2 different
Absolutely.
Businesses.
Absolutely.
May not be cut and dry, everybody's on the same agreement.
You're also dealing with the municipalities that have some rules and governing ordinances and
Yeah.
so this is, but I think if we don't enter into these conversations, at least from a staff standpoint, we're missing an opportunity.
You're just looking for some uniformity.
That's right. And I'm also looking to update these things now. I've
Actual
got this
written documents.
consolidated fire district too, which we didn't have at any of these times in the past. So I wanted to include it because I know that we can make progress if we work on it.
Okay, I guess you get started. Any other thoughts or any questions? There's no vote on that.
One more thing, how much of the complex at Liberty where the Performing Arts Center is, does the county own?
We own the magistrate's building, that parking lot. We own the Performing Arts Center. We do not own the gym, the old gym.
So the property line's down the sidewalk of the breezeway.
Right, it's also,
The cafeteria.
in some cases, it's a wall. And then we don't own the Meals on Wheels.
And we profit from that? I was like, we're not getting paid anything this year.
No, we're spending more than we make. Even when 2 years ago when they provided.
For a private company.
But I'm guessing you're gonna bring something back.
So we're gonna have to, Mr. Lang and I are gonna have
You
to
and
our
Mr.
work.
Lang.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're at item number 3, which is executive session. I'm gonna make a motion to go into executive session for personnel matter and also personal and legal matter. Here, second.
Second.
In favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. An executive